Some breaking news right now. Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein has taken his own life while he was behind bars here in New York City. Epstein was facing trafficking charges and...
Breaking news just lit up Hollywood. Mel Gibson has dropped a jaw-dropping bombshell, and the blast is rattling some of the biggest names in pop culture, including Paris Hilton. In a string of heated statements, Gibson pointed fingers at powerful figures he claims were connected to Jeffrey Epstein's secretive private gatherings, events wrapped in mystery, influence, and rumors that make people uneasy. Now, insiders say the FBI is paying very close attention, and here's where things get messy. Hilton, who spent years rebuilding her image with glam, business moves, and reinvention, is suddenly moving fast to create distance from the growing storm. This isn't just about what Gibson is saying, it's about why federal eyes are suddenly locked in. The timing feels way too precise to ignore. Gibson's comments didn't pop up out of nowhere. They resurfaced alongside renewed attention on Hollywood's hidden side, especially as his past warnings gained traction again, fueled by the buzz around Sound of Freedom, a film he openly supported that explores elite power structures and serious allegations without pulling punches. Insiders are speaking up, and the pressure is rising fast. Gibson has been sounding alarms for years, even joking back in a 1998 interview that his so-called paranoid fears about the industry ended up being disturbingly real. Now, with his long history as a Hollywood insider giving his words extra weight, the situation suddenly feels way more serious, and the stakes are sky high. And Paris Hilton, she's now sitting right in the crosshairs. Here's what's making people talk. Gibson didn't just vaguely reference Epstein's circle. Sources claim he allegedly pointed to a tangled network of elite connections, including A-listers and powerful decision-makers. And yes, that list reportedly included Paris Hilton, the heiress who built her image on being untouchable, now facing tough questions about her past. Hilton has pushed back publicly. In a recent interview with The Times, she brushed off reports that Ghislaine Maxwell once viewed her as a possible Epstein recruit, calling the claims clickbait. But here's the issue. Investigators aren't brushing it aside. Sources familiar with the situation say Gibson's statements sparked renewed interest in Hilton's old associations, including a widely circulated 2000 photo showing her with Maxwell and Donald Trump at a New York fashion show. Coincidence or something way more disturbing, the contradictions are stacking up fast. Hilton has repeatedly said she doesn't remember ever meeting Ghislaine Maxwell, yet conflicting accounts refuse to disappear. Composer Christopher Mason testified in the 2020 docuseries Surviving Jeffrey Epstein that Maxwell was actively scouting young women to introduce into Epstein's social circle. And according to his testimony, Hilton's name came up. God, she'd be perfect for Jeffrey, Maxwell allegedly said. That quote alone keeps people talking, especially as timelines start clashing hard. Now, with Gibson's recent claims pushing this situation back into the spotlight, reports suggest federal investigators are taking a deeper look, far beyond what any PR team would be comfortable with. And context matters here. Epstein's 2019 arrest on serious trafficking charges came years after that widely circulated 2000 photo, making the overlap impossible to ignore. This timeline doesn't just raise eyebrows, it screams for clarity. And Gibson's comments don't stop with Hilton. They fit into a bigger pattern tied to his long history of warning about Hollywood's elite circles. In that resurfaced 1998 interview, Gibson talked about entering the industry already suspicious, later saying those instincts proved right. He even joked that actor Chris Walken gave him an Antichrist vibe, a comment that now feels less random to those rewatching everything through a darker lens. Fast forward to 2025, and Mel Gibson is no longer laughing things off. His public support for Sound of Freedom, a film that sparked intense debate and speculation about elite abuse and hidden power, shows he's fully doubling down on what he sees as a deep, systemic problem. And if federal investigators are now treating his statements as credible leads, it raises a serious question. What else does Gibson know that hasn't surfaced yet? The dominoes are already tipping. This week alone, Congress released more than 20,000 pages of Epstein-related emails, exposing a massive web of connections tied to politicians, billionaires, and celebrities. Many of those relationships reportedly continued well after Epstein's 2008 conviction, and that detail is making a lot of people uncomfortable. Several familiar names stand out. Woody Allen allegedly met with Epstein dozens of times between 2014 and 2019, often with his wife, Soon-Yi Previn present.
I want to know how Epstein made the money that he did. I want to know what the transactions are he was involved in. And that should all be something that the Treasury Department, the FBI can get access to, because in the meantime, what we're left with is Ghislaine Maxwell effectively downplaying this whole thing. Yeah, he was a He hid it from everybody. Nobody else was involved. There's no proof of anything else. There's no blackmail. There's no foreign intelligence.
Allen's representatives insist he had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes, but the sheer frequency of those meetings is raising serious eyebrows. Then there's Deepak Chopra, who openly acknowledged teaching Epstein meditation and visiting his properties, even while Epstein was a registered offender. The pattern couldn't be clearer. Epstein didn't stay hidden in the dark. He moved openly, surrounded by influential figures who either claimed ignorance or chose not to ask hard questions. And now, with Gibson's claims placing Paris Hilton under renewed scrutiny, reports of FBI interest suggest investigators may be connecting dots others ignored for years. Let's be clear, this isn't about one photo or a single alleged encounter. It's about a long-standing culture where power shielded wrongdoing and where famous names could be used as social currency to open doors. The fact that Mel Gibson's comments reportedly caught the FBI's attention signals this goes far beyond tabloid noise or online rumors. And that also means public denials may not be enough to quiet the scrutiny. But things get even stranger. Newly released emails show Epstein bragging about his reach and influence, including a 2011 message where he referenced Donald Trump with the cryptic line, "That dog that hasn't barked." That one phrase sent speculation into overdrive across the internet. Trump's representatives have rejected the emails as fake, calling them a hoax. Still, the lack of public response from investigators has only intensified the chatter. At the same time, Epstein's calendar reportedly listed meetings with high-profile figures ranging from Steve Bannon to Bill Gates, all during periods when Epstein was already facing serious federal attention. So the real question isn't just who knew what back then, it's who may still be protecting whom now. And that leads straight to another unsettling issue, the missing footage. The Department of Justice recently stated that Epstein's so-called client list does not exist, a claim that left many people skeptical. That skepticism grew louder after Attorney General Pam Bondi addressed a mysterious one-minute gap in the jail cell surveillance video from the night Epstein died. Bondi described it as a routine technical glitch, but for many observers, the timing feels far too convenient to ignore. Too many coincidences, too many loose ends, and way too many unanswered questions. If Mel Gibson's statements are truly pushing federal investigators to take another look at Paris Hilton, then people are starting to wonder who else might be pulled into the spotlight next. And what exactly is buried inside those massive 20,000 pages that haven't been fully unpacked yet? Things are moving fast. Gibson's reputation as a longtime industry insider is giving his words more weight, even though his past controversies still make him a divisive figure. Love him or hate him, his claims are clearly shaking the room. Hilton's camp is reportedly in full damage control mode, but sources say the FBI's interest suggests this goes far beyond a quick celebrity scandal. This is starting to look like a serious legal pressure cooker. And with Congress preparing to vote on releasing even more Epstein-related files, the clock is ticking louder by the day. The names already circulating, Trump, Woody Allen, Deepak Chopra, Hilton, could just be the opening chapter. If Gibson is even partially right, and Hollywood's elite were far more connected to Epstein's world than the public was told, then the real question isn't about guilt just yet. It's about who's next to face the heat. Dig deeper, and Hilton's denials begin to sound shakier. This pattern feels familiar. When Ghislaine Maxwell's name first surfaced, powerful figures rushed to distance themselves, only for photos, flight records, and witness accounts to surface later, changing everything. Hilton's claim that she doesn't even remember meeting Ghislaine Maxwell is starting to sound shaky when you look at the 2000 fashion show photo. There she is, standing beside both Maxwell and Donald Trump, smiling for the cameras years before Epstein's first arrest. That image alone keeps raising hard questions. And let's be real about one thing. Maxwell wasn't just another social figure on the scene. She was widely described as Epstein's gatekeeper, his close associate, and, according to multiple accusers, someone who introduced young women into his social orbit. That context makes the memory lapse harder for critics to accept. So if Hilton truly doesn't recall Maxwell, why does Maxwell's name keep popping up alongside Epstein's most talked about gatherings? That's the part people can't ignore. Then there's the timing of Gibson's comments. After decades of Hollywood rumors and quiet talk, why are his warnings suddenly getting serious attention from federal investigators now? Sources close to the situation suggest it's not just Gibson's insider status, it's how his claims line up with an expanding paper trail. Gibson didn't make vague comments out of nowhere. He's been outspoken.
When I came over here, I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
The first time I really came over here. You know, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
For years. That includes his public involvement promoting Sound of Freedom, a film that became a rallying point for people who believe elite exploitation goes deeper than anyone admits. Add in Gibson's old interviews, especially that now viral 1998 conversation, and it paints the picture of someone who never fully stayed quiet, even when it made others uncomfortable. Gibson once described Hollywood as a place where your worst nightmares end up becoming real, a chilling line that now feels hard to brush off. Looking back with everything we've learned about Epstein's operations, that comment lands very differently today. He even joked that actor Chris Walken gave him an antichrist vibe, a dark bit of humor that takes on new weight when viewed through the lens of the powerful figures Epstein allegedly surrounded himself with! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. What used to be written off as paranoia now reads more like a warning map. And with Paris Hilton's name now tangled in the same conversation, her team's insistence that this is all clickbait is starting to sound less like a defense and more like damage control. But it gets even more unsettling. The newly released Epstein emails don't just spotlight the usual familiar names. They point to a wider culture where questionable associations were normalized and rarely challenged. Woody Allen's name reportedly appears close to 100 times in Epstein's calendars, often alongside his wife, Soon-Yi Previn. Allen's representatives maintain he had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Yet the sheer volume of meetings, dinners, private film screenings, and even a Valentine's Day trip to Paris raises serious eyebrows. Then there's Deepak Chopra, who acknowledged visiting Epstein's properties for meditation sessions, even during a period when Epstein was already a registered offender. Piece by piece, the picture forming is one of proximity, repetition, and silence that many find impossible to ignore. Deepak Chopra claims he visited Epstein's properties to help with insomnia, but the optics are hard to ignore. His explanation doesn't hold up when you consider the bigger picture. And speaking of money, Epstein's financial records, partially revealed in the latest document dump, paint a picture of a man who didn't just throw extravagant parties. He was meticulously building connections with the world's wealthiest and most powerful people. Billionaires, politicians, and even royalty were listed in his ledgers, often under the guise of philanthropy or business discussions. But we know the real story. Epstein's true currency wasn't dollars. It was leverage, the kind of leverage that shuts people up and keeps reputations intact. Paris Hilton's family wealth and social standing made her a perfect candidate for that kind of web, not necessarily as a victim, but as a valuable asset, a name to open doors, a face to lend credibility. And then there's the Trump connection. The former president has always insisted he had nothing to do with Epstein's criminal activities, but the newly uncovered emails tell a different tale. Epstein himself wrote that Trump knew about the girls, a cryptic statement that set investigators scrambling for answers. Trump's team calls it a hoax, but the FBI's silence on the matter speaks volumes. Let's not forget, Trump and Epstein were once close enough that Epstein was practically a fixture at Mar-a-Lago. If Paris Hilton really was on Ghislaine Maxwell's radar, as Christopher Mason claimed, then that 2000 photo with Trump and Maxwell stops looking random and starts feeling like a puzzle piece snapping into place. Suddenly, it's not just a snapshot, it's context. But let's pause and ask the question most people avoid saying out loud. What was the real attraction for someone like Hilton or any young, ambitious celebrity to circle a figure like Epstein? Critics don't think it was just about flashy parties or shallow networking. It was about the dangerous illusion of belonging, the idea of being welcomed into an untouchable inner circle where normal rules didn't apply. Epstein didn't just promise connections, he sold something far more intoxicating. He turned fame into influence, influence into protection, and protection into the feeling of invincibility. For someone like Hilton, whose brand was built on being the ultimate insider, the appeal wouldn't have been about cash or clout. It would have been about control. Control over perception, access, and survival in an industry that chews people up fast. What makes this even more unsettling is how closely Epstein's setup mirrored Hollywood itself. The business has always operated on access and silence, where the right introduction can make problems disappear, and the wrong rumor can end everything overnight. Insiders say Epstein exploited that exact system. He created a shadow version of Hollywood, offering exclusivity and protection to the elite. For celebrities like Hilton, who spent years trying to shed a shallow party image and be taken seriously, that world may have looked less like danger and more like opportunity. The promise of being seen as more than just a socialite of being trusted with secrets that bind powerful people together could have been hard to resist. Being welcomed into that rare inner circle often comes with status, protection, and influence that most outsiders never touch. But Mel Gibson's recent crusade suggests that illusion is finally cracking. His decision to publicly align himself with Sound of Freedom, a film that frames elite exploitation as a deep systemic problem, isn't just another Hollywood move. It's a direct challenge to the culture that allowed figures like Epstein to operate for decades without serious pushback. Sources familiar with Gibson's mindset say he believes Hollywood's darker side isn't about a few bad individuals. He sees it as a network of quiet cooperation, where powerful players, from studio executives to top-tier celebrities, benefited from staying silent and keeping uncomfortable truths buried. If that belief holds any weight, then Paris Hilton's name resurfacing right now isn't random. It's a pressure point, a test case, and that's what makes this moment so explosive. Because if Gibson is right, and if reports of FBI interest in Hilton's past connections mean anything, then this story isn't about one person or a few questionable relationships. It's about what happens when the first domino finally tips. The same psychological pull that may have drawn Paris Hilton into Epstein's orbit didn't stop with her. That mix of wanting to belong, chasing status, and believing the rules don't apply can be powerful, especially in elite circles. The thrill of crossing lines without consequences is intoxicating, and that mindset likely touched far more people than anyone wants to admit. But here's the most unsettling part. Gibson's crusade lines up perfectly with growing public anger over how Epstein's case was handled or mishandled from the very start. Epstein's 2019 arrest came more than a decade after his first conviction, a deal so soft it allowed him to keep moving freely, hosting powerful guests and operating right out in the open. The names in his black book were never fully revealed. Surveillance footage from his properties conveniently disappeared. And now, with Gibson's statements forcing investigators to reconsider who may have been involved, public patience is running out fast. The timing of the Epstein file releases only adds gasoline to the fire. Congress is preparing to vote on releasing even more documents, a move that's already sparked bipartisan anger and visible anxiety behind closed doors. The White House has brushed off the latest emails as a distraction, but that explanation isn't calming anyone. The damage is already done, because once those names surface, there's no putting the lid back on this story. Names like Clinton, Woody Allen, Deepak Chopra, even Prince Andrew aren't just side notes in this story. They're proof that Epstein's reach stretched into nearly every corner of power and influence. And if Mel Gibson's recent statements are pushing the FBI to take another look at Paris Hilton, it's because she isn't just another celebrity caught in the blast radius. She represents how deep and wide this scandal really goes. So where does that leave us right now? Gibson's credibility is rising. Hilton's denials are under sharper scrutiny, and federal investigators are reportedly digging deeper than ever. One thing is becoming impossible to ignore. This isn't just about one heiress or one actor making explosive claims. It's about a system that protected bad actors and a culture that looked the other way for far too long. The real question isn't only whether Hilton knows more than she's saying. It's about who else is nervous right now. Who's watching this unfold and wondering if their name might be next to surface. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Paris Hilton's ties to Epstein's circle go deeper than she admits? Or is this another case of guilt by association in Hollywood's never-ending scandal cycle? Drop your theories in the comments. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next bombshell. Because in a town built on secrets, the truth always hits the hardest. Stay curious, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next one.